Welcome, everybody. I'm Robert Chen. We are the development team. We are the SharePoint development teams. We are the team that brings us experience in SharePoint list, document libraries, sites, column view formatters, PowerApps, Microsoft Flows, hub sites, site designs, and much more. We are the developers, so we write code to make this experience work. We're not the typical savvy presenters you used to see in this conference. But that's OK, because today we have planned an awesome demo for you about SharePoint modern no-code customizations. So Dan, can you tell us more about today's demo is really about?
Sure. My name is Dan, and I'm a developer in SharePoint as well. And today's session is going to be all about customizations, and it's going to be about people who do that. So how many of you are savvy SharePoint users? Thank you, guys. We love you. And we build features for you to allow you to squeeze every piece of value out of our product. So today, we are going to show you exactly that. We are going to show you that SharePoint can be used to build pretty much anything. So we are going to show you a solution, a full-fledged solution that we built for you, step by step. We are going to go in every detail of how we build that. So with any other further ado, I would like to invite Cyrus to talk more about the demo we built for you.
Hi, I am Cyrus Balsara. I, too, am a developer on the SharePoint Experiences team. And as Robert mentioned, as developers, we don't get to chat with you guys, our customers, that often. But we are truly super passionate about this area. And we thought that you guys would appreciate this, this reasonably unvarnished session coming from us. Now, truth be told, we are trying to squeeze just a teeny bit too much into this 45-minute talk. And so while we'll be going over a ton of detail, one of the things that we thought would be interesting for you, because we won't be able to cover everything, is we created a cheat sheet for you, because that cheat sheet contains a bunch of the nitty-gritty detail. And for us makers, it's all about the nitty-gritty detail. We didn't want to leave you guys behind. And that basically is a GitHub repo. It contains our JSON snippets, our PowerShell snippets, our all the little tips and tricks that we needed to do when we used Microsoft Flow. It'll help you after your session or during the session. Anyway, enough of the intros. What are we going to build today? We are going to build a classroom application.
Classroom application. How did you come up with that idea?
You guys have all gone to school, right? So concept's pretty simple, but there is enough of implementation detail and trickiness in the scenario, and there's enough of unique UX that we thought it would be a perfect example to showcase all the work that we've done, our team has done in the last year. So let's get started. Switch to demos. We have no more slides. Anyway, so an Office 365 group is a perfect host for a classroom, because right out of the box, it comes with a distribution list, it comes with a calendar, it comes with a website, everything that you need to collaborate and communicate with your classmates and your teacher. What it doesn't come with is a classroom application. And so that's what we're here to build today. And here we have a vanilla website, and to save some time, we've pre-created a few lists. Every classroom application has a students list. I mean, you need a list of students. And so we have a students list with what you would imagine are regular fields in the students list. When a teacher wants to create homework or assignments, you need an assignments list. And so again, we have an assignments list, a vanilla SharePoint list with a few fields that seem very normal. And at some point, the teacher needs to grade those assignments, and so we have a grades list. Again, just a vanilla SharePoint list with some fields that look pretty normal. And finally, when students need to submit their homework or turn in their homework, we have a normal SharePoint document library and we aptly called it Turn It In, and this would be the place where students would go ahead and turn in their homework. So let's get started and see what happens. In this particular case, just want to draw your attention. This is Nestor. Nestor is the teacher, and he's going to start off his classroom by creating a few students in the students list. I'm going to use the people picker and the people picker to pick a few students from the tenant. We're going to choose Alan. Let's see if we can get another guy. And we got Irvin. And at this point in time, they're just two items in a SharePoint list. Nothing special here. We've been able to do this for 15 years. Let's see what's happening behind the scenes. We have, we use the business logic that we use. We are using a technology called Microsoft Flow. And I don't know, how many of you guys are familiar with Microsoft Flow? Like 80%. So the one sentence description is Microsoft Flow is Office 365's engine for automation. It takes events, and you can do automatic stuff. And so we have a Microsoft Flow. Actually, we have 7 flows for this application. I'll walk through them one by one. And this first one, when a student item is created, we go ahead and create a folder for that student in the Turn It In library, just so that they have their special place to turn in their assignments. So let's see if that worked. So I'm going to go to the Turn It In library. And sure enough, we have 2 folders, one for Alan, one for Irvin. I've seen this work 100 times before, and every time it works on stage, I'm like, yes.
This looks cool, but are students going to be able to copy each other's homework?
Yeah, that would be a problem, wouldn't it? That would be a pretty bad classroom application. So one of the things we were able to do right here in Flow is break inheritance in the folder that we just created and assign contribute permissions to that student. This is kind of a unique power of SharePoint. We have item level ACLs. So we will prove to you that that works when Dan goes ahead and switches to the student view. But basically, we have our flow working. So I'm going to close this out because I want to show you another flow that happens when a student item is created. This one, very similar to the previous one. When a student item is created, we want to break inheritance on that student list item to make sure that the student has read-only permissions on that item. We don't want students looking at each other's grades, and we certainly don't want students editing their own grades and giving them an A. So, all right, so I'm going to close that, and let's move on with our demo. And now Nestor has gone ahead and created a few students. Let us have Nestor create a few assignments. So let's enter an easy one. We give it a weight. This is small, so I'm going to give it a weight of 10. Every assignment has a due date. So let's go ahead and choose tomorrow. And the assignment is this little Word document with a few questions that they're going to fill out. And so I'm going to add that as an attachment, the Computer Basics quiz. And I'm going to save. And while we are at it, let us load these students up. This one's a little more complicated. Bubble sort is a sorting algorithm. And this one's a little heavier, so let's give it a weight of 20. And a due date of maybe a week from now, because we're being nice. And we can add a small template for them to use. Again, nothing special out here, a couple of items in a SharePoint list. But as you would have guessed, there's something going on behind the scenes. Let's take a look at what we have. A flow that when an assignment is created, when an item in the assignments list is created, we create one row for each student in the grades list so that the teacher can grade that assignment. And so let's see if that's worked. So if I go to the grades list now, I'm hoping to see 4 items, hopefully. And we have 4 items, two assignment grade items for Alan and 2 for Irvin. So I'm excited that that works again on stage.
And same here, probably. Students cannot see each other's grades, right?
Yes, so we have created another small flow to make sure that when these grade items are created, we break inheritance on that list item and explicitly give those students read-only permissions on their items. And we'll show that working to you in just a bit. So I'm going to close that out because that's another part of our application that is working. And now, you know, I shouldn't have closed that out because something else that flow did was it sends an email. So basically, at the end of setting unique permissions, it sends an email to each student to tell them that an assignment has been created. But I'll let Dan talk about that. Basically, we've been talking about what the student, the nester, the teacher, what his experience is. Let's see what Alan's experience is as a student.
So in this browser, I'm logged in as Alan, and I am a student. And by looking at my inbox, I can see that I've received 2 emails from Nestor, my teacher, about new assignments. I'll go to the Turnitin folder, and right here, I see only my folder where I can turn it in my work. That
you can't cheat anymore, Dan?
Yeah, well, not that Irvin did his homework, but I don't have anything to copy. So I'll have to implement the bubble sort, and I have a basic computer quiz. For the purpose of the demo, I'm going to just look into this, and oh, now I see a form. So that indicates that the attachment was copied by the flow into a document that I can very handy work on. And going to go straight into marking my homework done.
I see that required info there, Dan. What is that?
Yes, that required info is definitely a required field. And by clicking it now, the pane is opening, and I can definitely mark my homework as complete. Let's go and do the same for the second. I think it's this one. Oh, that is complete already. The bubble sort. Same thing here. The attachment was copied, so I can open it and edit it and save it back. And when I'm done, I can mark the required info as complete. So at this point, the 2 items are marked as complete, and I guess Cyrus has already a workflow that acts on that.
Thanks. Okay, so we'll switch back to the teacher scenario, and the reason Dan didn't go into actually opening up those documents is just we wanted to we shave off a few seconds, and so let's go back to what the teacher would see. Now, one of the things, if I actually jump through the flow of what was happening, when Dan talked about this a second ago, the flow that runs when another flow that runs when an assignment grade item is created is we actually create a subfolder for that assignment under the students folder. We copy over all the assignments in the original assignment, the attachments in the original assignment item, and move them over to that subfolder that we've created. So it's really convenient for one of the students to come in, fill up their assignment, and submit it. And so that's working. So I'm excited about that. And this was another flow that we really didn't talk about. When Dan marked his assignment as complete, that is, he marked his Word file and his JavaScript file, and he marked them as complete, we have a flow that goes ahead and sets a field in the associated grade item as turned in. So that's the indication to the teacher that the assignment is complete.
Right.
So let's take a look. If that worked, and we go ahead and refresh this page, I am hoping to see this turned in field for Alan as yes, and of course for Irvin it's no because he hasn't done anything. So I know that that flow works, so I'm kind of excited about that. Let's close that.
Well, the workflow worked, but the flow worked. But what about this view? It looks pretty busy, and with 20 students and I don't know how many assignments, who can control this?
Yeah, I already have a scroll bar out here. It kind of looks sad, right?
Yeah.
So
Something better.
let's do something better. All right. We're going to use this feature called view formatting. How many of you guys have heard about view formatting or column formatting? I'd say about 30%. View formatting is a feature that we released actually just last month. We released its predecessor, column formatting, about a year ago. And the gist of the feature is you can provide an HTML template to completely take over the rendering of an entire row. That is, you provide the template, and we have some expressions and logic that allow you to data bind the fields in the item to the HTML that you just gave us. And so we've got some pre-created JSON out here. I'm going to copy and paste it. There's a bunch of detail in your cheat sheet that explains to you what exactly we're doing out here, but at the end of the day, it's an HTML template. Let's make sure I got the right one. Let's preview it. And look at that. Isn't that a lot better? And so what we have here is, again, just an HTML template. It's a card view instead of a list view. It has some relevant details about the assignment. It has a couple of buttons at the bottom. One of these is the assignment folder. So for a teacher, it's a convenient way for the teacher to just click in to see exactly that assignment, and then they can grade it. Something else that's cool is you'll notice that some of the buttons are green and some of the buttons are red, and some say assignment folder and some say turn assignments in. Those are just expressions that we use in the view formatter to indicate, and we key it off of the turned in field, and that's what we use to decide whether to show green or red and change the text and stuff. And there's another convenient button out here that just executes the edit item action, and that's, again, a very convenient thing for the teacher. The student won't see that grade this assignment button. So let's go ahead and click on it. So this is, it just opens the regular SharePoint list form. One of the things we thought about was, hey, maybe we can make a PowerApps form, and we just decided for simplicity we'd stay with the regular SharePoint list form, but very simple to create a PowerApp form for that. Let's give Alan 19 out here. He did reasonably well. Okay, notice something new that popped up. Again, we're using view formatters here to just go ahead and do some very simple math, some calculations to set the width of a div that shows you kind of a visual indication of his grade in this particular assignment. And let's do the same thing for his computers quiz. And let's go ahead, and this is a weight of 10. Let's give him an 8. He did reasonably okay. Let's save that. And sure enough, the data bar shows up again. So that's cool. Some UX on the grades list is working for us. And now there's a piece of business logic that's running in the background. And this is our last piece of business logic for this part. And the logic is basically we want to make sure that every time a teacher grades an assignment, we ensure that the student's overall grade is updated. And so we have a flow. When an assignment grade item is modified, that is when a teacher makes a change in the assignment grade, if there's a grade associated with it, that is if it's not null, if the grade is not null, we want to do some calculations. And the calculations that we do is we query for all the grades for that student, sum up all the grades, sum up all the weights, and update those summed up values into the students list so that we have access to them on the students list. And so if this flow has worked, let's see if this flow has worked. If I go to the students list, I should see an updated grade value for Alan. And sure enough, I see 27 and 30. So my flow has worked out there. This flow had a teeny bit of complication in it. We didn't kind of go into the nitty-gritty out here, but that cheat sheet of yours has a ton of detail about how that worked. But as Dan mentioned, the view looks
so
sad.
We need to do something about this view.
Okay, let's go ahead and do the same thing we did for grades. We've pre-created some JSON for the students list. Actually, I can talk about this feature for hours because I wrote most of it.
Yeah, it's better.
So in this case, again, just a view formatter, HTML template. We get the picture of the student from the person field, metadata of some student, name, email address, etc. We've got the data bar. That data bar, that 90% you see out there is actually just a calculation using our view formatters. If you remember, what was stored in the list was 27 and 30, and we kind of do the calculation on the fly. And the view formatter does everything, so you could conceivably write A or B, and you can do all kinds of cool stuff. And we have a few buttons out here. Grades is nothing but a hyperlink made to look like a button that when you click on it, it goes to the grades for Alan, just filtered to Alan. So you'll see in the query string, it's filtered to Alan, so it's nothing but a hyperlink. Our Turn It In folder is Alan's specific Turn It In folder. So it's an easy jump in for Alan or the teacher to quickly go into that specific spot in the Turn It In library. And we'll talk a little bit about student overview in just a bit. So hang on for that. But at this point in time, we've mostly completed our business logic for our classroom application. We've kind of applied some cool UX to a couple of lists. And let's take a look at the home page and see what's going on out there.
The site must have a very useful homepage, right?
Yeah, what do you think about this homepage?
Well, not that useful.
Okay. All right, let's Robert, tell us how to make it more useful.
Indeed, this homepage is kind of empty and not very useful. Let's try to insert a couple of web parts to make the homepage more useful to the student and teachers. So since the classroom application is all about student, let's insert a list web part about students. Let's pick the students. Boom.
Wow, even customizations are showing up.
Yes, you can see that the default view of the list showing up here without the customizations. In the right pane, let's insert something else. Things students and teachers really care about. The assignment grade list as added assignment grades and publish that. As you can see that now the homepage is very useful with all the information about the student profiles and all the assignment and the grades associated with each student. So if we go back to...
What does Alan's view look like?
Yes.
Right.
So let's go back to the browser, log in as Alan, and go back to the home page for Alan's view. You can see that Alan can only see his own profiles and his own grade and assignment associated with himself.
You know, this is so cool. This, again, it's one of these implementation details that gets lost, but this is where SharePoint's power comes from. The ability to have item-level ACLs. We didn't have to do anything special other than make sure that each student had access only to their items, and everything else takes care of itself. So that's super cool. Thanks. So Robert, this view is so nice. And if I go to if I go to Nestor's teacher's view, he kind of has a busier view. Basically, he sees all the students and all the grades. is it possible for Nestor, the teacher, to just see what the student sees?
Okay. Yes, as Cyrus, you nailed it. So as you hinted, we actually previewed a page called Student Overviews. Let's click into this previewed page to see what happened. Yes, actually this page displayed information only for Allen's. So there's a little bit magic in the page because if you look at the address bars, the query string says student equal to Allen, okay? So this page actually leverages one of the going to release feature, which is called dynamic data part-to-part connections. The basic idea is that actually we're going to allow the web part inside page to be able to filter based on the information provided by the query strings of this page.
So what you're saying, Robert, is that, I don't know how big that URL thing is for people to see, but basically there's a query string in the URL that says student is equal to Alan de Jong, and we are going to use that query string in the web parts and tell the web parts to filter on that query string.
Yes, I just opened the web part properties pane. You can see this is the newly built UI for the part-to-part connections. You can already pre-specified, we connect to data source page context, and using the URL query string parameters, and if you look at the source for this embedded web part, it actually contains a parameter for students. And what happens under the hood is actually in the runtime, the part-to-part connection framework will replace these parameters with whatever specified in the query strings as identified as student, so that such that these two web parts will filter based upon the information provided by the query strings, so we'll be able to only see Alan's information here based on the query string provided by the page.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Robert. Let me just jump in and finish this application off. One of the things we wanted to make sure of was that the UX for the application was good. Of course, the business logic worked, and that it worked on all screens. And so when we went ahead and designed some of the UX, we made some of these formatters and the pages, we wanted to make sure that it kind of worked even on a small screen. And in this case, Alan's got, if he uses a tablet or a mobile phone or anything like that, and he goes to his home page, he kind of sees a reasonably succinct view of everything that is useful for him. Of course, he can drill in to any of those lists, the grades, his folders, etc. But right on the home page here, he sees his overall grade, and he sees all the individual grades that he's drilled in. So that's cool. I'm going to close that out to clean out some clutter. And at this point, we have created an application, and it works. It's got the business logic. We've walked through some of the 7 flows. We've created a few view formatters. We've created a home page. We've created drill-in pages. You can create 10 drill-in pages if you want, but it's just one student application, one classroom application.
Yes.
Now, the thing that I was thinking about, and we were thinking about, is if an organization wanted to bang out more and more of these classrooms, they're not going to call us and have us set up these lists and these flows again and again and again. And Dan, tell me that there's some magic we can do to make it all happen magically.
Yeah, definitely. We build magic here. So we are going to use the magic of 2 features that we actually announced last year, hub sites and site designs. I don't know how many of you are familiar with these 2 features. So maybe 10%. So hub sites allow you to have multiple sites clumped together under one hub and organize information. And site designs allow you to customize a site as is being created. So I'm going to...
It's like a macro, sort of?
Right. So this year we have actually joined the 2 together. And now when somebody joins a hub or creates a site from a hub, a script can automatically run and customize that site that is being created in a certain way. So we have also added a feature for people who can self-service site create sites. There is a create site button. that it's available for all those people, also for the people who can join sites to the hub. So I'm going to click on this button, pick a site, and let's name it CS505. And then I'm going to leave all the other fields as default. And
So what's happening behind the scenes here?
behind the scenes, a site is being created, and a script is being applied. So let me show you what script that is.
This is the site script you talked about.
This is the Uber site design. And this site script has actions in it, and one is to create a list assignments, as you would expect. Another action is to create the list students, and so on and so forth for every single list that we need in our application.
You must have spent hours writing that JSON, man.
Well, it's a lot of JSON that we include in these designs, so we thought about that, and we have a new feature that we're going to release very soon that right here in PowerShell for the SharePoint admin, who is currently the only person who can create these designs, we can export, very easily export the schema of a list in JSON format. So by running this command, we get the JSON, and we can concatenate all these JSONs that we need together into the Uber script that we want to create all our lists.
So you take the manual writing of the JSON out of it.
Yes, so there should be no manual.
Again, that command is executable in PowerShell. If you're not an admin, you can use JavaScript to get it. Hopefully, at some point, we'll put in a UX entry point so you can kind of just click a button and get that JSON.
Yeah. So we definitely, thank you. We definitely will have all the lists there, but as we saw in our demo, we need more than just lists. We need the flows. And I hope that Cyrus has some magic to copy the flows as well.
There is magic, like you said. And you know, to tell you the truth, this is when our 300 level session is maybe going to go to a 400 level session. So bear with us just a little bit. And hopefully next Ignite, when we come here, it'll be a lot easier to do this. But I'm going to walk you through how we went ahead and packaged up the flow. We actually didn't think there was a way when we started this, and then we kind of stumbled our way through it. Let me start off with that site script that Dan was showing you. There's a whole bunch of create lists and create fields in that site script. And at the end, the very end, there's this innocuous looking teeny little action called trigger flow. And that's one of the things we've always had in site scripts. That is, when that site script runs, you can trigger a flow so that it's one flow will run no matter when the site script is run. So that's cool. We have a way to trigger a flow, but that doesn't allow you to create flows. So that kind of sucks. But what we discovered, and somebody kind of hinted to us, was you can actually create flows from a running flow. So we're like, okay, that's cool. Now we have a way to tie this stuff together. And so we went ahead and tried to figure out what that would be like. So I'm going to show this to you. This is our flow that runs. This is this trigger flow. This basically runs this flow. And it's a big and complicated flow, and I'm going to try and walk you through it in 1 minute, but it'll take you probably a good 20 minutes to read in our cheat sheet. But the gist of what's happening is the site script runs, this flow gets triggered, and now we have actions to create those flows, but I don't know, what do I stuff into those actions? Now, luckily, the PowerFlow team has given us a very convenient way to export flows. So I can go to all my flows. I'd created 7 of them, and I exported them. And out plops a exported flow definition file, which for the most part is JSON. That's where the main flow definition is. And that flow definition contains everything about those flows that I had pre-created. They contain hard-coded URLs and hard-coded list GUIDs and that kind of stuff, which is really no good for my new flow that I want to create. And so we went through a reasonably painstaking process that took us, I actually think I spent a good 20 minutes going ahead and copying all those flow definitions. They're nothing but JSON files. And I replaced every piece of hard-coded information in that JSON file. I actually don't understand the format of that flow JSON file, but I kind of skimmed through and I figured out that there was hard-coded URLs and hard-coded list IDs, and I replaced them with placeholder strings. And I'll just give you a brief view of what we did. I kind of replaced all the hard-coded site URLs with things like web URLs and the list GUIDs with other placeholder things. I then put all of those flows in a common location. In this case, I just put them on a folder in my hub site. And now my flow goes ahead when that Uber flow is run, when this flow is run, I read all those flows. I do a string replace on each of those flows on the fly with the real values, and then I call create flow. And magically, it all worked. Well, let's see if it worked. So here we have the site that Dan created, 505. And the one caveat I do want to mention to you is we actually never got working the ability to get pages, you know, the home page and the drill-in page packed up. It's on our list, and we kind of have a way to do that, but it was a hack, and we didn't want to share that hack with you, and so it's on our list of things to do. So let's take a look. Let's go to the site contents and make sure that the lists are there. Yeah. And the lists are there, so that's good. Now let's, moment of truth, let's go ahead and create a couple of students on his 505 list to see if things worked. And let's see if I can go ahead and have Alan. And what's going to happen here? Oh. And sure enough, so the view formatters are working. And that came through, so that's good. And let's go ahead and add another student. So we can see that the UX is, the formatters are coming through, so that's good. Now, if the flow worked, again, this is the moment of truth, what's going to happen is, if you remember right, we are going to have two folders in the Turnitin library that were automatically created. And sure enough, there are two folders out there, so that flow was working. Let's go a little bit more into the application. If you remember, we created a couple of assignments. Let's create a few nonsense assignments here. Give it a due date. Save. We don't even have to add attachments. We actually created a formatter for it. You can see we didn't put too much effort into this formatter. Let's try another assignment. And I don't know if you guys remember, but if this flow works, what you should be seeing is in the grades list, we should be seeing 4 rows, 2 for each of the students we created. And let's see if that worked. Anytime now. And there you go. We have 4 of those, and again, we should probably see those folders, those assignment folders inside the student folders. And sure enough, we have assignment 1 and assignment 2. we can kind of we've walked through the entire, all our 7 flows work. That's pretty much what we have today. If I had to recap, I'd say what we landed up doing is we used Office 365 groups as a host. We have vanilla SharePoint sites. We used SharePoint lists as the storage mechanism. We used flows as our business logic. We used view formatters and modern pages with some dynamic data as our UX. And then finally, to package everything up, we used hub sites, site scripts, and a little bit of trickery with the flows to package everything up. And we kind of have a working solution that we can stamp out again and again for a hub site. And that's pretty much all we have, and we can leave the rest of the 4.5 minutes for questions if you guys have anything. Yeah. What's that? Right. Yeah. It should be available pretty soon, I would say, within
a couple of weeks. Yeah, what you are going to have to do is download the latest version of our PowerShell, remote PowerShell command. Yeah, and as you install that, you'll get always the latest. So it all depends not of us releasing the SharePoint product. It depends on the releasing of that downloadable.
Can that be different per hub site or different per?
Yeah,
it is. Yes. It is
or
tied. So you associate that site script with that hub site.
With the hub site. Any subsite you create from there.
So every time a site joins a hub, that script is
Oh,
executed.
that's sweet, because that's new, isn't it?
That is new.
That's
That's
it was
yes.
only one before.
Yep. That's
right?
exactly right. That's the
that's
new
sweet.
feature.
Okay, awesome.
Created. Yeah.
Hi there.
Hey.
Thank you. It's an awesome presentation.
Thank you
Fantastic.
very much.
The code for dynamically
Dynamic data,
copying,
yeah.
Copying the flow from a template to other sites.
Yes.
Is that in that?
It is. It is in the cheat sheet. So if you look in, actually at the end of that cheat sheet, we have details on how to recreate exactly this application. You'll have to run through 9 steps to kind of copy stuff over and modify a few things, but you will be able to recreate it. And at some point, I hope there's a button that says, take my stuff and package it up. So,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What was the command you ran for the JSON script?
It was get SPO site scripts. You know what? It should be in that little cheat sheet of yours. If you ran it in PowerShell, it's get SPO site script. No, I'm sorry.
It's yet to be released. It's going to be, yeah.
I'm not sure, but it's in our JSON file, and you can call it through JavaScript as well. So you don't have to be a tenant admin to use PowerShell to call it. You can use JavaScript to call it. And at some point, we're just going to put a little button in there. We have the API. We just
Watch
have to expose it.
our video again, like there's online. So the first slide.
Use that cheat sheet. It'll help you out.
There's URL.
Yeah, you know what? Let me do that.
Let's show the cheat sheet. You know.
What am I doing?
Go back. Yeah, this
There
one.
you go.
This is the cheat sheet. You can. Yeah.
And actually, it's a GitHub repo. So it has all the definitions. It has all the PowerShell information. So it's all there.
I was fiddling around with the row format.
Yes. Yeah.
Nice feature, really nice.
Thank you.
Then I stumbled on a problem. I needed to get the counts of all the rows. Are there any way to do that?
No. So the row formatter works just on the individual row. It doesn't have access to the other rows. So the context that it has is just that single row.
That was what I suspected.
Yeah.
Just a quick question on the flows that you created. We've played around a lot with flow, but most of them are tied to an individual user from a permission standpoint.
Yes,
So
that's right.
How did you handle that piece to where?
So that's such a great question. And so in this particular case, what happens is the flow, that big flow at the end, was created by Nestor, the teacher. So all the other flows that are subsequently created are created using Nestor's account. Now the trick out there is, there's some steps that I've written in that cheat sheet. When you create the flows, one of the things you have to provide is a connection string. And so you can provide whatever connection string you want, but that string is a GUID. You're not going to be able to magically get that string. So whoever you want to create the flow as, you have to get that connection string off that user, and they'll have to give it to you. And so that's kind of the little hard-codedness of us not making it particularly simple to do. So you will be able to choose whoever it is that you want to create that flow as, but in this particular case, I chose the connection string of Nestor, the teacher. No, because well, we want to make it much simpler. But as of today, it's kind of the Flow team believes that it's a bit of a security feature to have a connection string. You need OAuth, and if your organization has multi-factor auth, they want you to sign in to be able to get that. And so we just have to work through how we make sure that people can't create flows on behalf of each other. That's the gist of the reasoning for all this stuff.
Thanks for coming. Great stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So, great presentation.
Thank you very much.
Basic questions, reminders. So, I say I want to have reminders on the assignments. I think that will be done in Flow.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, one of the things that we skimped on is we already had 7 flows. We wanted, I had actually 12 at some point in time, and I wanted to get this done. So we had flows that when the teacher graded an assignment, it sent an email, and reminder flows when, a day before, and I kind of yanked all of those out because we just couldn't cover. I'm going to turn this off.